everything was out of my control and I wanted to give in, I was crying and my mom came over and she was like being super supportive to me. And I just told her, I want a drink. And she was like, but I love who you are sober.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to Recovery.com, where we share authentic stories from influential voices about the joys of life in mental health and addiction recovery and the journeys that led us here.
We tell our stories because we don't heal in isolation.
I'm Brittany Baynard.
And I'm Tom Farley.
Today, we're joined by the bold and brilliant Kate Garner, a content creator, coach, and truth teller known for her unfiltered honesty about addiction, recovery, and healing. With her signature blend of wit, wisdom, and radical transparency, Katie has built a powerful platform that resonates deeply with those navigating sobriety and self-discovery. She speaks candidly about the messiness of recovery, the importance of self-worth, and what it really means to rebuild your life from the ground up. Get ready for a deeply real and empowering conversation about owning your story and finding freedom on the other side of addiction. Thank you for joining us today on Recovery.com. We're joined today by our guest, Kate Garner. Welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Katie.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, so we are going to be diving into Katie's story today. And I guess I would just love to start with, prior to your journey with recovery, like what was your relationship with alcohol? What got you to the point where you are now here sharing your story with us?
I started drinking in high school.
Okay.
My first drink was at 15, but I really didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I didn't like the feeling of not being in control. That happened once, and then I didn't drink again for a couple of years, really.
How did you avoid that in high school?
Well, I wasn't cool.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh, yeah, that's standard answer. Yeah.
Cool, right? No. Yeah, I just waited a couple of years and then started drinking more. It felt like at that point, like going into senior years when more people kind of started to. Yeah. And it wasn't every weekend by any means, but it was often. And I didn't always drink to get drunk. A lot of times when people talk about like an alcoholic, they'll be like, you're born an alcoholic, right? I don't think I was. I do think I was born with the gene that makes you more likely to become addicted to something. I do. But I think over time it just evolved into that because it became my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So in high school, I was drinking a lot. Did I drink to get drunk a decent amount? Yeah, I did. But not every time. At that point, I had control. I could get to a certain point and be like, okay, I'm done.
Was it more for the social aspect for it then?
Yeah. I would say it was more for the social aspect. And so I, was drinking decently heavy. The last part of my senior year, it really kind of became more and more. And then graduating, I went to hair school. So I didn't do the traditional college route. A lot of people go to college, they drink a lot at college. Well, I went to hair school and people drink a lot in hair school.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, like there's definitely a drinking culture around that industry. And doing my TikToks, I've had a lot of hairstylists reach out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it wasn't even just like your group where you were at. It's like definitely a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing for sure. So it really started picking up then. And I had a fake ID. I went out every weekend. I drank often. I would drink a couple times throughout the week. I would definitely binge when I would. I was with my ex-husband. I got with him and we would drink, but we also smoked marijuana quite a bit. So that kind of took over in a sense. That was what I did more. Not that I didn't drink because I did, but for a period of time, that was really more of the main focus. We got married. I was 24 and I got pregnant 10 months after we got married. And I had a terrible pregnancy.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I was sick the whole time.
Oh, wow.
I suffered from depression during that period. I wasn't taking anything for it. I was worried, how will this affect my baby? Like, so I just dealt with it, but I wasn't dealing with it in a good way.
I'm guessing that you were dealing it also in probably more a state of isolation than you've ever been
Oh yeah.
in before. Like, I just remember as a first time father, I probably was like, I don't know what's going on here. I was probably no help at all. So you had that. Isolation is a tough thing anyway. And then I just dawned on me like, oh my God, the pregnancy thing just pushes you more into that.
Mhm.
Wow.
Prior to getting pregnant, had you gone on had you explored like your mental health before that? Had you taken medication for depression?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have been treated for depression since a very young age. And I had periods of time where I was medicated and then I would get off of it, go back on it. It depended on what was going on in my life, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was a long period of time where I didn't take anything. I have ADHD, so I was taking medicine for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
That spicy brain. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Spicy brain for sure.
Yeah.
At this time, had you any idea of any sort of hereditary ancestry or just the history of drinking?
Yeah, for sure. My grandparents were alcoholics, 3 of the 4. They were high functioning alcoholics. Had careers, had families, went to work every day. They did the things that they were supposed to be doing. They just drank a lot.
Yeah.
My mom specifically always made it known to us, this runs in your blood. You have to be aware of it. It was something that I know she was conscious of and, had some worries that maybe we would become too.
Did your parents drink? Like, was that like a casual thing in your house when you were growing up?
My dad barely drinks at all.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
I'm like hearing similarities. So like, same with my family. There's alcoholism that I learned from my parents with their parents. So grandparents, alcoholism. And I feel like my parents were so affected by that growing up that I never saw alcohol in the house. Like I didn't see my dad drink until I was well past 20. Same thing with my mom. There was just never alcohol in the house. I never like witnessed it. And it was their form of protecting me from something that they were probably afraid of, but in turn, it kind of like lacked any type of education or experience or exposure to something.
Okay.
So then when you kind of like get into it on your own, all these curiosities pop up and you're like, I tried it. I didn't like it, but like, yeah. Also with like the hairstylist thing. So I did also not the traditional way, but I worked at a restaurant and very similarly, like you all kind of trauma bond and then you go out for drinks.
Yeah.
You just go balls to the wall. And then you feel like crap. A lot of times those jobs, you don't have to wake up super early in the morning to get to.
Yep.
And it just becomes this like cyclical thing. Was that your experience as a hairstylist with that?
Absolutely. I was a server as well for a period of time. So I absolutely know what you're talking about. I would, in the serving industry and hair, I would go out until 3:00 in the morning. I'd wake up and go to work.
Yeah.
If I had to be there at 9, if I had, whichever. So it had just become something that was normal to me. It was routine. I wanted to unwind after work. I wanted to, my body hurt. My mind was exhausted, everything. And I just wanted to numb it.
Yeah.
And obviously looking back, I wish I had done that differently. Like, why couldn't I have just gone home? And I didn't go out every night back then, but enough.
Yeah.
So it's hard to kind of see where all of this initially started for me, like how I used drinking to cope and why.
Yeah. And it sounds like it kind of really kicked off during postpartum depression.
Yes.
Yeah. What was just kind of diving into that experience? Went through the same thing with both of my children. The first time I didn't realize it was happening and I did start drinking. Similarly, me and her father, we weren't together afterwards. It just didn't work out.
Okay.
So on those days you don't have them, you feel like you're kind of spiraling and you don't want to sit in that spiral. So you start calling people, what do you want to do? And the only thing everybody always wants to do is go out and drink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that experience. And then after drinking, the guilt of doing that on top of the guilt of stuff just not working out in your life. Is
Right.
that kind of what you were feeling in those moments? Like what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my birth was awful.
Yeah.
And it was very traumatic. A lot of things happened that didn't need to happen. There was other ways around them, but they didn't take that route. So what that did to me was created immediate postpartum. I remember having him and I just felt something click. I was not okay. I just like a little bit of backstory. His heart rate dropped significantly every time I contracted for 30 hours, and they didn't tell us. So he had lack of oxygen to the brain for that long. And when he came out, the cord was wrapped around his neck, his chest, and his stomach and wasn't breathing at all. And he was completely blue. And, normally they would hand the baby to NICU, right? Or the nurse, like, you take care of this. Well, they put him on me and had me revive him. So, like, they were like, rub his back really, really
skin
hard.
to skin is going to make this happen and putting that on you.
Yeah. So, like, I'm frantic. I just gave birth. You just put my baby on me. He's not breathing. I'm like looking at my ex-husband, like, help me. Like, what am I doing? And so when he finally started breathing, it's hard to explain, but when certain things happen in your life, it's like you can still feel the feeling that you had in that moment, even though you don't feel that anymore, So I still remember the feeling that I had when he started breathing. And then, his APGAR score was a 2. And out of a scale of 1 to 10.
That was a good feeling though, right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I should have looked at it that way, right?
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the trauma of it all really took over.
Angry.
Yes, I was relieved. Absolutely. But it was everything that took place, how it took place really consumed my mind. I wasn't able to look at it from the angle of, okay, you saved him. I look at it from the angle of, what if I couldn't have?
You put that on me.
You put that on me.
Yeah.
What would it have done to me if I couldn't have?
Because they made it feel like it was up to you to do this.
Yeah. It's not on them. It's on me.
Yeah. That had to feel like a huge lack of control in that situation.
It's something that's hard to talk about, obviously, because you want to say, I bonded with my baby immediately. Like, it was this magical experience. I loved it all. I couldn't. I loved him immediately. Don't get me wrong. He was my everything immediately.
You can't.
But I wish my mindset could have been different. And it's hard as a parent, but as a mother, to look back and realize, like, I didn't get to have that experience that a lot of moms do. And that's what you so desperately want when you have a child. Like, you want it to go that way. Because of what happened during his birth, created this anxiety in me of, is he breathing? So I was checking on him all the time. I was checking the monitor on my phone throughout the night, making sure, going in and checking to make sure, is my phone right with the heart monitor,
is
heart
my
rate?
Phone freezing right now? Like,
right.
And just as a mother with children who could be 100% healthy, that is something that you panic about. I cannot imagine. It's having to deal with a child that already had a health scare. That had to have been extremely stressful to deal with night after night after night. And you're also not sleeping because you got a baby that you have to take care of them. How are you handling this?
My anxiety and depression and anger had just reached an all-time high. I went a year without sleeping properly. My son started sleeping through the night 12 hours at 5.5 weeks.
And you didn't?
And I didn't. So, and then when I stopped breastfeeding after 3 months, I started drinking all the time because I could now, and I knew that's what I had used before to calm me down instead of, realistically going to my doctor, getting the care I needed, starting to take the meds to make my mental health better. I was just self-medicating with that. And so it was like every night, I needed to sleep. I wanted to sleep. Well, when you're drinking like that, you're not sleeping, right?
No.
Right.
So, and then especially being up and down on top of that, like, was awful. And about a year in, I had a mental breakdown, and was when I first started handling my mental health through a doctor. But unfortunately, like at that point, I had already been using alcohol to cope for so long that I was doing both. And it wasn't working. It was, but it wasn't at the same time. Like there was just a little bit of a shift, and it wasn't enough. So it just became routine. And I know I became easier to be around when I was drinking.
Oh, really?
Because it calms you down, right? You're not as angry. You're not lashing out. You're like in this state of euphoria, whatever you want to call it, where it's like, okay, everything's fine for right now. But then you wake up the next morning and it's like,
it's still here. All the stuff's here. All the feelings are 10 times worse. And I hate it even more. And now I feel guilty about what I did yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had heart palpitations all the time.
How old were you at this time?
26?
Yeah.
And ADHD and depression will get you with that too. You get ADHD burnout, and it just becomes this like ongoing hamster wheel where even when you start recognizing these things, and as a parent and as just like a functioning member of society, I can't turn my hamster wheel off. I can't just jump off of this. Who's going to take care of everything around? So I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing because it's working and we're getting through another day, but it's not sustainable. And like at some point you have that mental breakdown. Yeah. It's like, it's inevitable. Were the people in your life noticing anything?
As far as postpartum?
Postpartum and like your alcohol use.
For postpartum, I know my mom saw it. She knew. I know a couple of them didn't. I have not really asked everyone if they did. I'm sure they probably figured it out. As far as my alcoholism, I've had that conversation with all of them at this point. I lived with my mom after I got divorced for 8 months. So, and I drank all the time. But there was also, I was actually just talking to her about this. There was times where she was asleep when I would come home. You know, she didn't realize I was drinking every night. She knew I was drinking a lot. She never thought she's an alcoholic. And even with my ex-husband, he saw it, you know, firsthand. I wasn't hiding it. You know, he was right there.
Yeah.
But even he didn't think she's an alcoholic. And when I look at it, I'm like, how? How did you guys not think it? Because when I'm looking at it as I was in such a terrible place. I was drinking all the time.
Like to you, it was clear as day.
Yeah, but like that also just goes to show like some people don't actually realize what the definition of an alcoholic is. But then I'm like, I drank every day. So like to me.
But you're not some guy on the street with a brown bag.
Exactly.
So like you're fine. Yeah.
My whole life, like I had a house to live in. I had my child. I had all of these things. But I feel like what's so important is to point out there's so many people at home every night with their kids doing the same thing, functioning, going to work every day, doing all of this, but they're drinking in excess and getting drunk. But it's okay because they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing day to day.
They're putting out this person that they think the world wants to see or that they need to be, and it's not real. And you feel that inside. This is not real for me. And so therefore, the only way to deal with that feeling, at least for me, was to drink. Because you want this person. Okay, I'll give you this
version they're all requesting.
Yeah, exactly. I knew they were never seeing. No one was seeing me. I wasn't even seeing me. I'm like, but this is what they want. Okay, so this is the only way I know. I'll give it to you, but I'm going to do it with a drink in my hand. Yeah. It's really more like, were they ever seeing you? Because like right now, I'm guessing you're not anywhere near that person that you were before. And people are probably coming up to you and saying, wow.
I've never been this. I've never been who I am now. People are seeing me now.
Man.
I'm so drastically different, you know? And even with my TikToks, like I've heard multiple people say like, that's not you. Like when I look at that, that's not you. And I'm like, that is me.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem, is like, I showed you the worst version of me for
Mm.
so long that now that you're seeing this version, you can't identify it, you know? And at one point, I hit like a really hard place in sobriety. Month 7, 8, I was really struggling with it. I had isolated this entire time.
Yeah.
Like, there was things going on in my personal life that I was just really struggling. And I was like, it was hard for me to see why I'm doing this at that point. Like, everything was becoming clouded. And I just felt like everything was out of my control. And I wanted to give in, you know? And I was crying. I cried a lot. And my mom came over and she was like being super supportive to me. And I just told her, you know, I want a drink. And she was like, but I love who you are sober.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Whoa.
And it just like, I get super emotional when
Moms
talking
are
about
amazing,
that,
yeah.
because it's like, that just shows me like they have never known me.
Right.
They've never gotten to know the real me.
Where were you in your social media journey at that point? Were you really ramping up, or just starting, or not there yet?
No, I had reached a really like good point in it. I had been doing it. My first video was on the 4th of July, and that was my day 11 into sobriety. And then
Wow.
my second one was on my day 14. So
Right away.
at about 7 months in, you know, what, January-ish. Yeah, I was at over 100,000 followers at that point. And
I mean, it's nice to have,
yeah.
but it's not. So I'm guessing that that's what you were feeling like, but I have all of this, but why am I still feeling alone and isolated?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go from there? Like, did you find someplace? I mean, I got to figure there's some connection at some point that you started to build, like outside of.
I'm not sure I was working the program correctly for a long time. I was a dry drunk for months.
Mhm.
I was miserable. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I just wanted to do it my way. My way is working. It wasn't. So when I finally got, you know, to the point where I was ready to work the steps, because I think before that, I just really wasn't ready.
Right.
I couldn't get myself there. So when I finally started doing that and seeing the benefits of it, and, you know, I did this for my son. They say,
Sure.
do it for you. I do it for him. I'm second there. And I know that's, you know, everyone's like, no, it's you. And it's like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. It is healthy for me to think this is for Mac, because I didn't value my own life like that.
Yeah.
You know, I had reached that point where I was like, I had lost every desire to even want to be here. I couldn't see the good, you know? So on the day that I stopped drinking, I was, you know, it was a bad place. It was scary. And I had struggled for a long time, but it had hit its peak.
What
You know,
scared you the most? Was there something that really like, it was like,
I just didn't want to be here. So like, I knew that I was going to continue down this track. I was going to stay an alcoholic. Mac was going to have to watch this growing up. What will our relationship be like? Will we have one? I watched it. My ex-husband's dad was an alcoholic, and he passed. I just kept thinking, am I doing to him what his dad did to, you know, my ex? So, and I saw what it did.
yeah.
And, you know, it's devastating. And I did not think I could overcome it. And I just didn't want to do it to him. I thought he deserved better, and I didn't think I could be better. So it's like, I really had to start consciously thinking of that every day. You're doing this for him. You're doing this for him. Because if I had told myself every day, you're doing this for you, I would have never stayed sober.
So talk to me about like this. How did you kind of figure out what the pathway out of this was for you?
I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge around what resources there were.
Mhm.
You know, I knew what you see on TV, AA or rehab.
Yeah.
Like, that's where my mind went. So that's what I Googled that morning.
Hmm.
Like, okay, I don't want to go to rehab. I don't want to miss time with Matt.
Mhm.
Okay, so AA. So I researched, you know, I was Googling and I was so confused. But I finally came across the schedule, and there was one at the church I grew up in that night. And it was an all women's meeting.
The day
Those
you
are
looked
big.
for it, there's one that night.
Right.
Like
And
that.
it was like, it was crucial, I think, that I went to an all women's meeting
100%.
because I think if I had been in a mix, you know, it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe. So, you know, going there and seeing a bunch of women who were like me,
Yeah.
you know, for me, when I pictured AA meetings, I didn't picture a bunch of women like me.
Mhm.
I pictured a bunch of women who had lost everything, homeless, you know, worst case scenario.
Mhm.
So I think that's what really, I was nervous walking into that room because I was like, what am I going to see? What's
Yeah.
going to happen here?
We get way out ahead of ourselves and we think like, this is the rest of my life, really, with this crowd. This doesn't look fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because we were thinking like, you know, I know the rest of my life is going to be this.
Because this seemed fun. All that stuff
Yeah,
back there
yeah,
seemed
and so
fun.
yeah,
Or at
and
least manageable and okay. This, how's that supposed to be fun? But the
Yeah.
connection is where
They were so happy.
it is. Yeah.
yeah,
When you walk into a room
Right.
full of alcoholics, you know, I knew what I was feeling. I'm an alcoholic. I'm miserable. So I just assumed, even though you're in these meetings, you're just trying to be sober, like your life may not be great. You know, you can't ever drink again. But to see and hear what these women had to say really like struck a chord with me.
Mm.
Like I was like, wow, they are regular people.
Yeah.
Living, you know, life every day like a lot of people do. And their stories, some of them very similar to mine. And hearing how they overcame it, hearing, you know, bits and pieces of their story, really, I related. And I was like, they're happy, they're sober, I can do this. Like,
I'm imagining that like you probably had, you know, from early, a pretty, always had a pretty strong group of gals around you all the time. That seems like a given, but this was different. Like, but did you ever have those conversations, that sense of connection and bonding that you not now are finding in this group?
yeah, I do. I have a group of friends that I've been friends with since high school. And we've been vulnerable with each other, you
Mhm.
know, about various things. Never about this, obviously. You know, I didn't tell any of them.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to because I was afraid I wasn't going to follow through.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want everyone to know she tried, she failed.
It was more the
You know,
embarrassment of
she's
the
just gonna be an
accountability
alcoholic.
than like the
Yes.
thing you were actually experiencing.
Yeah, I'm a vulnerable person. I'm raw, I'm honest. That's what my TikTok is, you know, and some people hate that. Like,
Yeah.
they can't understand how I'm able to do this. And I'm like, I just am who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I've just always been this way, but about other things, obviously.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I'm talking to, you know, 260,000 people,
Mhm.
but it's through a phone.
Mhm.
So the level of vulnerability and rawness that I have on there definitely compares to how I am in real life.
Mhm.
But would I just go up to someone on the street or even people I've known for a long time and really just, can you listen to me for just a
Mhm.
second? I'm
Yeah.
going to vent about what's going on in my sobriety. I might cry. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of times that is what happens in my videos. I could start out solid, you know, I'm talking about something and then you continue talking and you reach a point where it's like, okay, this is super emotional for me to talk about, but I'm going to keep doing it because I have to get it out.
Yeah.
I can't keep things in.
Mhm.
Do you ever think like when you're doing your TikToks that there's somebody out there like you're doing that for somebody and somebody's hearing you and that's amazing.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so thankful that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
No matter how long you've been in sobriety,
Yep.
if you're not quite there yet, if you're new to it, if it's only been a couple of years, if it's been 20, you know, there's people that are relating to my story
Mhm.
and want to hear it because it not only keeps them sober because they don't want to go back here, or it's preparing them like, look, yeah, it's going to be hard. These are the emotions you're going to feel, but also look at how much better my life has gotten now.
Yeah.
Because there's both.
And they're also seeing a journey.
Yeah.
It's not just a story. Which it is, but they're also seeing a journey. One of the things one of your TikToks that you got pretty vulnerable about, and it's a heavy lift for me too. Is one still is amends when you're talking about that, and like that's a really hard thing. And what I have told myself is it's always going to be hard, but every time I do it, I'm a different person. You know, like I'm better every time. Like I've had that progress. And so, you know, it becomes better. So like, but yeah, way back when, hard. I'm deeper in my recovery. And I'm more authentic. I have the tools to do that. It's still scary though.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
I was really not looking forward to it at all. I didn't want to. I couldn't get myself into the mindset of, you really need to just look at it from your angle, what you did, you know, trying to apologize when some situations it's hard, you know, because you see both sides of it. But realistically, it's not about that. It's about what I did.
Yep.
And why I'm sorry for this. And getting sober, you realize so many things about yourself when you get sober.
Well, it's about your pain, not theirs. This podcast is brought to you by Recovery.com. It's a place where anyone can find mental health or addiction treatment options specific to them. You can filter by location, price, insurance coverage, therapy type, mental health condition, levels of care, and so much more. Recovery.com is the place to find mental health or addiction treatment for anyone, anywhere.
Something you said earlier is kind of like semi-negative backlash on socials from like being so open and vulnerable. Things that like I've experienced in the past, or something that like people experience in general, is like, you're being so open about something you should be ashamed of. Like, you should be ashamed of this. You shouldn't be talking about this. Why are you talking like you're proud that you're an alcoholic? Like, is that what you're picking up from this? Like, I can't imagine how somebody like, I love this. The first 10 minutes of you sharing, I felt less alone in my own like journey with things that happened that, you know, you still deal with it. Childbirth is traumatic. Like, there's a lot, like, just listening to you for the first 10 minutes, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so much less alone. So to have somebody sharing their life and opening up so that other people can also not feel so alone and can feel like, oh my gosh, I feel connected to someone in this world when I didn't think that anybody else had to go through something like this. I feel like some people are shaming you for not feeling shame.
There's certain parts that I don't feel shame in, but there's a lot that I do. You know, like a lot of my actions are shameful and disappointing and embarrassing, you know, but the positives in all of this outweigh the negatives. I get people that say terrible things to me, but, you know, it's probably 85% positive to 15% negative, but I'm the type of person that focuses on the negative in it because I don't like to be criticized.
Right.
I struggle with that.
I get the taking a moral inventory and, you know, all your, you know, defects. I get that. And that's important. I have gained so much. I'm like, that person with the defects, that's not here anymore. Like, look at all the stuff that I've gained. I'm like, I'll still want that because that person's always there ready to pop out. Always. So like, I got to keep it in check by like, I see you and here's my list. Don't make me add to it. And I need to do both. And I think that's when I got to that point in my recovery of like, letting go of the moral inventory and the defects a little bit to see like the positives.
You don't always have to wear it on you so many, you know,
I
all
know.
day long.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's enough people around me that remind me of that list. But I love kind of coming back to them with this new list.
You
know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Showing people that you've changed they're not gonna, automatically be like, yeah, you've changed. I see it. It's a living amends.
Totally.
You have to work this every
They
day,
want to
or they're
experience it.
never going to think
Mhm.
that you changed.
Yeah.
And so, identifying my character defects and all of the awful things I've done, writing it down,
Yeah.
that writing it down makes you really realize it, because if you're thinking about it, you're thinking about random thing here, random thing here. But when you're writing it down and you're literally evaluating it and being like, oh, okay, yeah, I was that person. I cannot believe that I was all of those things, because I didn't think about all of them all the time. I focused on a couple of the things about myself that I were not good. But when I broke it down and saw the list as a whole, I was just like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot I have to work on.
Becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
But you know what else?
Yeah.
I learned also too is not just writing it down, and think about it, all that kind of stuff. I also had to feel it,
Mhm.
because a lot of times we're all around kind of an emotion, except the most important part, which is the feeling thing. The whole like serenity prayer, which we say all the time. Well, what does serenity mean? I say it like almost every day, but like, what does it mean? And for me, it was, I was kind of a terror on the road a little bit, not raged kind of thing, but I was competitive, aggressive. And so in recovery, I just kind of plant myself in the slow lane. And when somebody like goes buzzing by me, I'm like, you're okay, man. Like, you're going to get there and you're fine. And all of a sudden that change in my, like, oh, this is what
That's
serenity. That's what it feels. I need to like identify what I'm feeling with this thing that I've been talking about, writing things down. Like, I need to connect the two. And have you had those moments where you're like feeling something for the first time, like, oh, this is nice?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When I handle a situation in a healthy way, instead of, doing it how I used to, I'm like, wow, that is progress,
Mhm.
because I never would have done that way before.
Right.
And, it's like little things too. I would get irritated at the grocery store at something, right? And then I would be frustrated with the cashier, like it's their fault.
Mhm.
Right.
It's not their fault. But like for me, like now I'm just like, it's okay. This is how the day is supposed to go. It's how you, react to these things that's really going to make the difference in your day. Is it going to be awful, or is it going to be great? Like, I have control over that, because I have to train my mind to think that way.
Yeah, it's
You know?
hard to rewire your brain,
Oh,
though.
yeah.
It takes so much work. But
Yeah.
yeah, what are some of the tools you learned to do that? Because I myself need to practice more. Like, I don't know if this is an ADHD thing or just in general, but it's like something big and bad will happen. I'm like, whatever. But yes, the cashier register, or someone not getting over when they should have, and they had a whole mile to do it. And I loop on these negative thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm like, this has 0% to do with my life. How can I not let this go?
Honestly, it just came with time.
Yeah.
And I think I was really realizing how terrible I was being, and when I became conscious of the things that I was doing that were really affecting my day, I didn't realize they were. You don't look at the
Yeah.
little things as affecting the rest of your day. You're looking at the big things. And so when I really started to pause and just look at it for what it was and move past these small things instead of focusing on them every day. Like, okay, there's 10 small things that happened in my day that easily, I don't know if I'll say easily, but I could have worked through that in a healthier way to make sure that my day was good.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I just dwelled, always
Well,
dwelled.
heavy lift for me early on was the concept of gratitude. I'm like,
Mhm.
Gratitude. I'm grateful for, like, my kids, easy stuff. Well, you should be, but I was going through my day so focused on controlling things and, does this make sense for my, long-term career? And missing all of these. I was amazed how many things I could be grateful for in a day that I was missing.
Mhm.
And they're dumb things like, I'm just grateful that
I brought donuts in on Monday.
or I wore like socks that matched, it's a stupid thing, but like, that's actually,
That's a win.
that's a win.
I'm not
it
doing
also
it right now.
but it's a win that changes how you feel.
Mhm.
It creates a different feeling.
Mhm.
And I never had that.
When you start looking for things to be grateful for, you'll just generally find them more often.
And
When you're looking for that negative stuff, you
and
will
feel
find that
that way.
negative.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and feel it.
Mhm.
You know, that attracts, man. You know, when people see that, and that it's an attraction.
It is. It's a huge shift. It's a huge shift in
Yeah.
the way you think about things. So with your journey in recovery and being a mom, recovery is not linear. There's like a whole spectrum to it. There's great days, there's bad days, there's
Mhm.
easy days, there's hard days. What are some things that you do to help keep yourself on this path, to keep on giving yourself those other days to add on to?
Well, I attend meetings.
Yeah.
I was attending 4 or 5 a week for a long time, and then I kind of cut back to 3. I let it overwhelm me in a sense. I
Yeah.
won't lie. It became too much, and I just felt like I needed a little bit of a break. I love working the program, but it wasn't healthy for me to go to that many meetings.
It's almost isolating
It is. It is.
in some cases. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I've picked a few that I like and I go to them, and being around Mac is
Yeah.
like enough for me every day. When I don't have him, I miss him. What's hard for me is being alone.
Mhm.
When I don't have him, I was drinking a lot during the day.
Mm.
At that point, if I wasn't at work and I didn't have him. So that was a hard part of, recovery, is learning how to be alone.
Yeah.
Because
What are some things you do to fill your time?
I color.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Oh, you didn't
Are you-
say
are you-
art
pencils
or
or
paint,
can-
like
yeah.
color. I
No,
love that.
honestly, you
I
need
use colored
something.
pencils and I color.
Yes, that's a
you
big
need
thing.
something that's
Yeah.
just like, I need to make something beautiful, and I just sit here. It's kind of mindless, kind of not,
Yeah.
but it's better than scrolling through your phone and torturing yourself looking at their pictures
Yes.
for hours until you fall asleep. Yeah.
That's my big, like, people are like, what do you do? Like, if you're triggered or have a craving, it's like I literally keep something in my hand so that it's not a glass of wine,
I love
So,
that. You should make recovery coloring books.
people have said that. I'm like,
love
I
it.
can't draw. Like, I
No,
can color.
someone else
but-
will make the thing.
Oh,
There's
okay.
AI now. Just little minis, like little traveling mini coloring
True.
books. If
That
you
would be
ever need
cute.
it, just color. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
no.
awesome. I love that.
So, that's my big one. And it really saved me in early recovery.
Yeah.
I would color for hours. I'm not joking. Like, I had to. And if I didn't have Mac and I was at home
Yeah.
alone, I was coloring. And it's almost become something for me, like, when I just first started doing that, like, it was like, okay, I look like I'm in kindergarten. But now, like, it's been something that I worked really hard to become good at. And I know that may sound silly, but like, it's been rewarding for me
I
in a
love
sense
that.
to learn how to, like, I don't know, make something look that good.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. My hobby was drinking.
Yeah.
And that didn't. I got nothing out of it.
Mhm.
Well, at least you have art. Like, you get something. You get to look at something like, I did that.
Yeah.
My followers look forward to it. They want
Yeah.
to see them,
I
you
love
know?
That's so
that.
cool.
So, yeah, I've sent some to some people and like,
That's so nice.
yeah, it's cool. I haven't been able to do it enough lately. So I'm definitely,
I hope you get some color time today.
I know, right? Maybe later. I brought it with me.
Good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Love that. I did want to ask, like, you had mentioned walking into AA and you're seeing all these women filled with joy, and that is not what you were thinking that you were going to be walking into.
Mhm.
When did you find yourself being that woman in there with joy?
Probably just a couple months ago.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
realistic. That's
Yeah.
realistic. You can't go day one and just be like, I found it.
Yeah,
It's here.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm great. No. Yeah. Yeah. Probably a couple months ago, I started really seeing the upsides of it. And I am an emotional person. So depending on what we're reading about, what the topic is, I will sometimes still get emotional. But that doesn't mean that I'm not, in a good place.
Yeah.
It just means this is an emotional
This is
topic
a
regardless.
feeling, yeah. Before you decided to like gear your social media account to recovery, like, was that something you were interested in prior? Were you big on that prior? Or was this just like, this kicked off and it's been going great and people have been receiving this really well?
Yeah, no, I had TikTok, but I really didn't use it.
Yeah.
And so I don't even think I fully understood how TikTok worked because I started doing it for me.
Mhm.
You know, I wanted to document it so on my bad days I can look back, or
Yes.
on my
Yeah.
bad days I can look back and see, okay, it was worse.
Like
and
a
it's
video
getting
journal.
better.
Yeah.
And then when
Yeah.
my 14-day video went viral, like overnight, like I posted that video at 10 p.m.
What was the next morning like? Like, were you just like, excuse me?
I didn't even open it right away.
What?
Wow.
And then I like opened it a couple hours later and I was like, oh, okay. I had a little bit of a panic attack.
I can imagine. Did you have like, was it people you knew too? Like, were people you know reaching out to you like, excuse me, hello?
Yeah. So some,
Yeah.
but it's uncomfortable, I think, for a lot of
Yeah.
people. You know, I know there are a lot of people I know that have seen these videos. I also know there's a lot of people that don't like that I do it. I don't care. I did for a long time, but if you don't like it, these aren't for you. And if it makes you feel a type of way, then why is it? You know, it's really good
Why?
to
Yeah.
do some reflecting. Is it because you're embarrassed that you were ever around me? Is it because,
Yeah.
you know, things like that? And it's, for me, I'm just like in sobriety, you know, I have friends still
Yeah.
that have been my friends for a long time, but I've also let go of friends that I
Yeah.
had for a very long time. And I'm okay with that.
Good.
I'm perfectly content. You know, you realize who's serving you and who isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been so important in my sobriety, is to come to the realization that some of these people were just filling a spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like our friendships had really not progressed much over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, you know, were solely based around drinking.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you come to the realization, wow, I really have nothing in common with you anymore outside of that, it sucks. But, you know, moving forward, it's like I'm better for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, as far as my socials and stuff, like TikTok's really the only account that I post about my sobriety. I don't do Instagram. I made a YouTube, but I don't really post on there. I like to use TikTok.
Yeah.
That's, you know, so never in a million years would I have ever thought this,
Yeah.
ever.
Is it more of a healing thing for you, or has it now become like, you know, wanting to help others heal?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm healing. I'm doing well, but I also know there's a lot that aren't. And
Wow. Yeah.
it's such a rewarding thing when somebody, you know, I do a lot of lives on there. You know, I post a decent amount of videos. I do lives almost every day. So when somebody gets on there and is like, I'm on day whatever, your videos got me here. You know, I showed this to my mom. She just went to rehab.
Mm.
You know, it's stuff like that where I'm just like, wow, this is working for people. Like,
so encouraging. It's so
Yeah.
encouraging.
yeah, I never would have thought.
Yep.
Ever.
But somebody who's struggling and they're seeing you and they're seeing somebody who's like making it over those hurdles and is now paying it forward. That's extremely encouraging. That's huge. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
I love
cool.
what I'm doing. And
Wow.
I just, you know, I was a hairstylist, a single mom, not living life to its potential. And like, now I'm still a hairstylist, but now I'm, you know, creating content that's helping others succeed in life to become, you know, sober for their families, for themselves, like for their future. And, you know, I just feel so fulfilled.
This conversation started with this, you know, just anxiety and like doubt, self-doubt and fear. And now it's this, and it's really unleashing all of this inherent thing that was always there. Like, and now you get to be that person.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. That's incredible.
Yeah. I just never knew I was this
Yeah.
person. So feels good.
Wow.
Seeing my relationship with my son and where it's at now and what
Yeah.
it used to be. Yeah, I don't ever want to drink again because
Yeah.
I know what it'll be. And I want this. I want this relationship. I want to be there. I want him to know I'm there. And, you know, the things that happen in our day to day that used to be really hard for me to, deal with. And, I would drink about them. Now it's just like I'm able to handle it in a healthy way. And we get through it and the day is still good. I just couldn't get there before. I
Yeah.
just needed that drink. And so now it's like, all right, what's next? All right, we worked through it. Let's go.
I love that. He's got a big, strong, powerful mama that I know. He's got his back. That's good.
Yep.
Always.
Every day, all day.
For people, for women, for mothers, for anybody that may have been in your situation before you were able to get help, what is some advice that you could give them in 5 words or less?
Doesn't have to define you forever.
I think that defining you forever thing is what people are really holding on to. It's part of that shame. It's part of that. It's like, yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah.
You did it. It was a thing. You can move past. There's so much life to live. That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. It's been so lovely getting to talk to you. I have thoroughly enjoyed meeting you. This has been so lovely. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this.
I'm amazed after this conversation we just had at the work as we tell our stories, we tell our stories because we don't heal in isolation. We have to talk about these things.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was such a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. And where can people find you and follow you and learn more about you?
You can follow me on TikTok at Kate_Garn.
And if you're interested in finding more resources about substance use disorder, alcohol, mental health, go to Recovery.com.